This year, we are using All About Spelling 1 and All About Spelling 2, and I'm using it with two different kids who are two different ages. So I'm going to chat with you a little bit about how I've been using this with my two kids and any tips I might have for you. Hello and welcome. I'm Christine. I am a homeschooling mom of three kids. They are 10, 8, and 6, and we've been homeschooling for like 6 years now. It's been a while. I am also a second-generation homeschooler, so I have been in the homeschool world for a long time, and I really love it. Homeschooling is something that I love to share about, so feel free to subscribe if you want to see more from me. Today we're going to be talking about how I am using these two levels of All About Spelling with my kids, because if you know anything about the curriculum put out by All About Learning Press, you know that it is a very hands-on, multisensory approach to teaching your children. And it is very teacher intensive, and that can be challenging when you're trying to do a curriculum like that with more than one child. So I'm just going to share how I use it with my children and the flow. I haven't when we started using it, I didn't really plan out like we're going to do one lesson a week or two lessons. I didn't do that. We just kind of take it as it comes and at the pace of my kids. And it's working really well for us. We've kind of fallen into a natural flow of things. I have done a flip through video of All About Spelling, so I will link that for you here so you can see how I've laid it out. But I'm going to share when we do this in our day and how we do it. So first of all About Spelling, they've got their lessons laid out like this. So you've got a lesson. This is not laid out in any kind of planned yearly schedule. You really do have to take it at your child's own pace. But you have your lesson, and then the lesson has a few things in it. You've got the part where you use your letter tiles to teach, and then you've often got an activity. The activities usually are optional though, but they do have the activity from the activity book. And then there is a list of words or phrases and sentences that you can dictate to your child. So the way that we tend to do it is we start the lesson and we just go through the lesson at whatever pace my child can handle. All About Learning always suggests setting like a 20-minute timer, so you're not going over that. I don't set timers. I just gauge how my child is doing. I would be very surprised if we ever go over 20 minutes though. And so we would go through whatever new concept is being taught and work that out. If they're not getting it, then I would perhaps do the activity. And if they really aren't understanding the concept, I would do the activity the following day. So sort of let the lesson settle so they can kind of get a handle on it first. And then we would go ahead and do an activity the next day to make sure that they're really getting it. And then I would move on to dictating phrases and sentences. So they have their own folder, which has a refill pad in it. I don't know what you guys call it in the States, but over in New Zealand, we call it a refill pad. It's just lined paper. And I will dictate usually 2 phrases and 2 sentences. I tend to do this over the course of 3 days, and there's usually 6 of each. And so it works out that I can do 2 per day. However, if they're really quite good with whatever concept they're being taught, I might do 3 and 3, and so then it cuts it down to 2 days. And then we would finish a lesson, and that's how we take it. There's also review, like at the beginning of the lesson, you would review any words or sounds or whatever that your child hasn't mastered yet. That's in the review box. My kids don't have a lot of those yet. They're doing pretty well with this. My daughter is flying through All About Spelling 1. She's up to lesson 16 already, and I think there's 25 lessons in here. So she's getting through this very quickly. She's going to be on to level 2 very soon. And I will be back with another video when I figure out how to do 2 kids in one level without buying any more cards, because I'm not going to, because it's expensive. But I will just say how it tends to fit into our day. So for reference, my son is 10 and he is doing All About Spelling level 2. And my daughter is 8 and she's doing All About Spelling level 1. And it doesn't usually take us more than 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 15 minutes to do our lesson per day. It depends if we're just doing dictation or if we're doing the actual lesson. If we're doing the actual lesson, it'll be 10 to 15 minutes. If we're just doing the dictation, then it's only like 5 minutes. for them to write out the things, maybe 5 to 10 if I'm distracted with another child. And so the way that I work it is we do our independent subjects, or individual subjects, math and language arts first in the day. We tackle those. And my kids, I don't usually get to spelling before we need to take our first break for the day. And then once we've taken that break, everybody comes back. And my son has his typing lesson. My daughter's not doing typing. So he'll go off and do typing, and I will sit down and quickly do her spelling lesson with her. And then she goes and does a piano lesson, or she might finish her handwriting or whatever. And then I do spelling with my son. I haven't found it to be very challenging to do this with 2 children in 2 different levels. My kids are picking up on it fairly well. It's not too time intensive. And despite the fact that it is hands-on for me as a teacher, it just hasn't been overly complicated. I will say we do not use the letter tiles, the physical letter tiles. We use the app. And I do think that would make a difference. It's a lot faster to use the app. My children don't need that tactile, like the actual, real life thing. They're fine just using the screen and like moving things around on the screen. So that's something to consider. Instead of having to faff around with like reorganizing the board and all of that, you can just use the Letter Tiles app. There is another charge for it, but it's a one-time charge, and then it's fine. So that probably makes it a lot more efficient for us. And I do have 2 separate boxes for their cards, and they have their 2 folders for dictation. And I think I've got like the spelling rules in clear, in page protectors in those folders, so they can refer to them very easily. So that is how it's been working for us. I haven't found it particularly challenging yet. I am anticipating it being a little bit trickier to figure out how to like make it so that I've got all the cards where they need to be when she comes to this one, because she's like really, it is slowing down a little bit. So you do need to know that all about reading the first half of the book, they're probably going to go through quite quickly, but it does slow down a little bit in the second half, because it's a little bit more challenging. So she will finish this before the end of the year though, and then she will begin on level 2. I don't know how quickly my son's going to go through this. He's up to lesson 8 and he's doing great with it. We probably, I would say, average 1 to 2 lessons per week, just depending on how easy it is. If they need more practice or whatever, then we can go through it more. But for the most part, it's 1 to 2 lessons a week, and we school for 4 days a week. We do spelling all 4 days of that week, but they're, like I said, it's like 5 to 15 minutes per lesson. So short and sweet. I would not call myself a Charlotte Mason homeschooler, but short lessons are definitely something that we practice in our homeschool, and I will say it does make a big difference. Short and often and consistently, I think really does pay off over time, instead of trying to do like big chunks of lessons and then skipping several days and then trying to go back to it. I do think that they struggle to retain things as well when you do it that way. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. If you do have questions for me about this, leave them down in the comments below, because I don't know if I'm missing something, that there's like something burning that someone wants to ask about this. And so if I am, please leave down in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.